Today's show is brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook, the top-rated sportsbooking app in all of North America. Not only are they safe, but they are secure and reliable. Ladies and gents, and you know we like to have promo codes because we like to come bearing gifts. We like y'all, y'all like us. So with that being the case, we got the new promo code with DraftKings, and it's pretty simple. For my new customers out there, when you download the app, you make that initial deposit of $5, you will receive up to $200 in bonus bets with the promo code MODES. I mean, it's a pretty dope concept, man. In terms of how it works out. And, you know, from there, you can use that to potentially hit on some anytime scores. We know with some of that going on this week because we saw a lot of tutties happening, baby. So we like that. But I also note that at times we can get lost in the sauce. And when that does happen, you know, you might have to text somebody if you're in New York. And if you're, you know, anywhere else, the digits to dial are 1-800-GAMBLER.
He says it's crazy how effective and efficient JF2 is being without even using his legs. Yesterday he was a pocket quarterback. Next week he might be Vic. Love to see it.
No, that's a fact, man. That's part of what makes Justin Fields such an intriguing dude, man. Whether it was him coming out of Ohio State or even us looking at him and say, yeah, man, if it don't work out in Chicago, we would be interested because of this type of potential right here. Now, this is probably the most consistent we've seen, you know, him playing at the NFL level. And that's the part that's super intriguing and, you know, exciting because this hasn't been the case. It's usually been more of the roller coaster. But, yeah, to see him playing as efficient as he's playing and as effective he's playing and not even using what is his true bread and butter, which has been his legs, yeah, definitely got us excited over here, man. How you feeling about it?
Yeah, he's playing like I would have expected him to play coming out of Ohio State. Whenever I watched him at Ohio State, this is what it was. He was way more of a pocket passer. He was flashing the arm talent.
Yep.
Whereas in Chicago, he was not doing that as much and having to use his legs way more than he probably should have. And, yeah, I feel like he's striking the right balance here because he does have a really good arm, man. Like he
does.
Like, there's no reason for him not to be using it. And that's obviously, like, if you can hone in on that, that's what's going to age you out better as a quarterback, obviously. So, yeah, for him to be doing what he's doing just as a pocket passer, and I think we've got to see it more last week, but then this week to even, like, more of, like, a full fruition. I'm loving it, man. You love to see it because it feels like he's starting to really come into his own and be comfortable back there. And then, yeah, use the legs when you need to because he does have that ability. But not only is being able to pass the way that he has going to be better for him long term. I think it's just going to be better for him and the Steelers long term because he's not going to be in harm's way as much running the way he was in Chicago. I didn't think it was going to be at this point, week 3, which is like, dude, some of those throws,
man,
like,
it's looking good.
Some of those throws, the decision making, just the comfort back there when he drops back, it's awesome because it's not even like, okay, we saw that in Chicago last year. We saw that in Chicago in his first 3 years, and now we're seeing it now. Like we got to see him in preseason, and he looked helter skelter and out of sorts. So it really turned around quick once the regular season started. And we talked about, too, if you do get this opportunity in the regular season, I'm going to forget about what happened in preseason. I don't care at all because
regular season count more.
Yeah, regular season's where it actually matters, and then playoffs are obviously going to be where it matters more. He's playing really good, man. Playing really, really good. Only had 6 rushing yards yesterday.
Let's go. 5 of them on the touchdown run.
Yeah.
It's in a good spot, man. In a good spot.
Yeah, playing really, really good. That boy 23 says, I feel JF1 interception helped him not to be as conservative with the ball. He got it out of the way and felt good. Make Justin throw the ball, and they look bad, they said. Tay Adams could also want out of Vegas now.
Okay. Hey, man, I like it. However, you know, it needed to be for him to be settled in. I think he was still settled in. I mean, you look at the interception, it was kind of some bad luck with it. In terms of the ball, bounced it up, and shout out to Bud Dupree, Johnny on the spot, man. But, man, to me, the thing that I thought was standing out the most from Justin Fields from the time he started throwing passes in this game was him anticipating. That's one of the things that we had talked about in the past with some of the other quarterbacks, just how we want more anticipatory throws, because it's not always going to look open. But if you wait until you physically see the guy open, you're too late, because the defenders are a little bit too fast in terms of how they react and, just the way the coverages are played. But when you see, the anticipating throws, dude, the Calvin Austin one, I mean, the defender's there, but it's like, I'm hitting you right where it needs to be.
Yeah, that throw was unreal. Pat Frymuth was wide open right in front of him.
Right, but it's like, man, I'm anticipating. I want to get this. I want more. You look at the Scotty Miller pass. It's like, man, this is anticipating. This is arm strength. This is accuracy. But also, I liked that he was showing touch at various points as well. To me, it just looks like a guy that's more comfortable. Like him and Arthur Smith were on the same page, and that's important, man. You have to have the guy that can be the architect, that can kind of, put it all into place. But then you also got to have the guy that can be on the field and executing those concepts, executing what the overall mindset of the offense is. I just think that right now, both of them, in terms of Arthur Smith and Justin Fields, they're growing in terms of their synergy. And that's what you want to see. But I think that's a big reason, from my perspective, why Justin Fields is so much more comfortable in terms of this week versus the previous week. Another thing, though, that I was listening to Coach Tomlin when he was doing his pregame interview he does with Bob Labriola. He was talking about how offensively we've looked the first two games versus what it was going to look like going into this game. And what he had highlighted was, he said, man, early on in the year, his mindset is to be intentionally conservative offensively, because the execution isn't what it needs to be from an offense's perspective. And typically it takes longer for those guys to get all on the same page every single time. And it takes a little bit more time into the season for that to happen. So if you come out early in the year and you're more of this pass happy approach, and you're trying to take more chances, it's just a lot harder to overcome offensive adversity early in the year, because you just got a lot of moving pieces you're trying to get figured out. Whereas typically defenses, it's a little bit easier for us to come out and start the season hot, because we don't have as much, I got to worry about you doing this thing at this step for me to do my job right. It's kind of like, man, we can almost be like independent contractors on the same squad, whereas on offense, the timing matters. The unit, offensive line, matters. And he talked about how, like, they would focus more on running the ball in, not trying to put the ball in harm's way in both of those Bronco and Falcons games on the road early in the year. But he had said that this week should look different. It should look different because we're at home, because we're going to have the crowd, because we've had a little bit more time to start gelling more. And he was like, yo, we anticipate the offensive playbook opening up more. And we saw that in this game, and we saw more passes. We saw the ability to, even though Justin Fields didn't always run it, just the intent that, hey, man, this guy can take off. We even saw it in the red zone, and it equated to a touchdown. Yeah. So it was good to just, even hear it from Coach Tomlin, kind of giving us why it's been looking like it's looking offensively early on, and now where we are at this next stage in the development. And this is why I'm like, I feel even more excited about it, because now you're telling me this was by design, in terms of the super conservative. And he talked about even what we said, man, the safeties. He's like, yeah, Atlanta, why would we mess with the middle of the field? He's like, that's where the strength of their defense was. Talked about Denver. He's like, yo, altitude is important. On the road is important. But it's like, we know that they can't do this right here. They got that and that, but they can't do this. So it was like, that's why we attacked it this way. So it was like, yo, just hearing him, it makes a lot of sense why they're doing what they're doing. But once again, it is really, like I said, it's really promising to know that, yeah, they're not settled with what they've been showing either. That's not we're going to do this for 17 games. This was just how he wanted to start it. And I think that was also important for him to kind of hit home and clarify, because I do think some people felt like, yo, this is how it's going to be for the whole season. But he's kind of letting us know that, nah, we're going to continue to build this thing out and expand it. And this is still with the plan B situation, quote unquote, with quarterback, because we know initially it was supposed to be Russ, even going into the opener. So it's like, as this continues to build out and grow, we're seeing the production, we're seeing the confidence, not just in the coordinator, but in the guys on the field as well.
This is the plan A quarterback situation to me going forward.
I mean, we get it. That's how I'm supposed to react.
I mean, yeah, we got to. We got to stick with Fields. 3-0. I mean, after that game too, could have even had a better completion percentage if it wasn't for the Frymuth drop. There was a Pickens drop across the middle. Like he played really good. Man.
I would agree.
Like, Really, really good. Fourth quarter, too, like, got to have it type of series, got to have it type of drives. We got to put points up on the board. Delivered. First half, I think it was after the Chargers scored. We got the ball right back. They're up 7-0. How are you going to respond, Fields? He responds. Goes 8 for 8. Gets the rushing touchdown. I think he was really good, man. Really, really good. I think we got to stick with him. I don't even think it's a question. So, like, I think he's playing. Like, it was plan B to start off because we said, Russ, you're going to be the starter. And I think it goes hand in hand with everything you just said about playing maybe a little bit more conservative the first couple weeks because we weren't readying ourselves for Fields being the guy at the end. Actually, I guess you could even say for a good portion of, like, preseason, because, like, preseason week 2, preseason week 3, Russ was the starter, and then what was it, like the 2-3 weeks in between that and the regular season, like Russ is supposed to be the guy. I get there was maybe a little bit more uncertainty at the early portion of training camp because Fields was getting all those 1 reps, Russ was limited. But once you hit like midway through August all the way up to week 1, or I guess early August all the way up to week 1, it was supposed to be Russ, and then day of the game, Fields, you're the guy. So, I mean, it makes sense as to why we would take a little bit more conservative approach, and then you get your first week after that knowing that Fields is going to be the guy. You got up the full week leading into week 2 against Denver. All right, it would make sense if you're not completely familiar with each other just yet, if you're talking about Fields and Arthur Smith and how you want to do things. Yeah, now week 3, let it a little bit more loose, and we get the result. And, that was Fields' best game yet. Best game as an offense. Looked like Mason Rudolph at the end of last season for those 3 weeks. Like, that's how good the offense was. I was saying yesterday, I don't know how many quarterbacks outplayed Fields yesterday. Like, there's probably like a handful of guys, but if you just look at week 3 across the board with quarterback play, like he was in top 10, maybe even top 5.
Yeah.
Played really, really good.
I'm with you, man.
And that's how Mason was playing at the end of last year. So this is what we want the offense to look like. If we could just keep on doing this, we're not gonna have a problem at all.
Yeah, to me that's the whole thing going forward. Because I agree. I mean, the way that he played, how do you take him off the field? Now I know there are gonna be people that have criticism of certain elements of it, and that's fine. But you can only control what you can control. You don't get to control who is healthy, who's not healthy. All you can do is go out there and make plays, and that's what he did. But like I said, for me, I just look at it as I want it to continue because, granted, it looked great and it's been great so far, but it's unfortunately just 3 games. And as quick as everybody is now on Justin Fields and showing him support, we also know that if he were to have 2 bad games, these same people that are loving him, praising him, saying he's QB1 will be the main ones talking about he sucks, got to get rid of him, get back to Russ. So that's the thing for me where I'm just kind of like, I like what I'm seeing, but I just want to see more of it. Just keep it going. You gave me this performance. It was a lot of context in this, very different than the first 2 games. More so for me, I learned a lot from him in the first half because he did have to respond back-to-back times with Herbert. I felt like it changed a little bit once Herbert went down in the 3rd, but it shifted to, can you do the kill shot? Can you finish off a team that you know can't score offensively? Their defense is starting to rail. Can you put your foot on the pedal and close the door? And that was the other part that was interesting. Now, part of me is like, I love that, but I still kind of wanted to see what would happen if Herbert kept scoring, because up until that point, he was scoring. And that's the part where I wanted to see, like, can we keep matching that? Because I felt like in the first half we did, but we know first half, second half, it can get a little different. But once again, you don't get to control those variables. All you can control is executing this offense, leading the squad, and getting the dub. And he did all of that. So that's why for me, I'm like, you put him out there this week. You got to. But at the same time, it's like I also understand that as loud as support is, it can flip just like that, man. So that's why I'm like, he's got to keep it going. Whereas with Russ, the reason why Russ hasn't even had to practice and was still going to be viewed as QB1 is because his body at work, he's already done what we just saw Fields do, just way more time. So that's the part where it's like the back and forth. But for me, with Fields, like, you're doing this now. Until you do otherwise, keep going.
But I think to this point, he's even earned himself a hiccup to go back to him. I think he's earned himself continuity.
Mm-hmm.
Go 3-0 playing like this. I mean, yeah, if it's a little bit of a bad game next week or something, I can't predict how it's going to go exactly. But if it's a little bit of a hiccup, I mean, I don't see why you can't stick with him for another week. Like if it's a stretch of
I said
3 games.
I said he had 3
something.
good games, and we're like, yo, we're crowning him. I said if he had 2 bad games, how quickly it would flip. Not 1 game, like the same just 3-game window we're in, because it ain't been 5, it's just been 3. But within 3 more games, if it flipped, that's what I'm saying. Like, yo, so just keep doing what he's doing.
Well, and that's the thing for me. It's almost, if he's playing like this, it's hard for me to envision a really bad game for him, because I think based off those first 2 weeks, and you want to throw this one in the mix, he raised the floor. He's going in with that mindset of, I'm at least going to manage this game and keep it close, and then everything else after that is gravy. Because I see other quarterbacks and like making reckless. There's a lot of bad quarterback play out there through the first 3 weeks of the season, like making reckless throws and just throwing in harm. Like Fields isn't doing that.
Yeah.
And yeah, obviously you got to keep that up, but it seems like he's just a different Fields, and almost like that guy from Chicago, that guy from the preseason even is gone. Which again, that's why I'm just like mind blown how quick the flip switched when the regular season hit with him. It's just pretty wild to me. But I think he's the guy, man. I think you rock with him until it gets like a rock bottom situation, or which again, I don't really expect that to happen. I don't, but I think you got to rock with him. I think this is his team. Like I think it's almost like I do compare this to Mason a lot last year, because we appointed Russ to be the star. We appointed Russ to be the leader, but I think if you ask the players right now, like, who's your guy, who's the leader? I mean, it's Fields, and it's just because of organically him being out there with the team and leading them to these victories, and being the quarterback, being out there in war with them in battle, and playing really good. You know what I mean? We're not winning in spite of Fields at all.
He's playing well.
We've been winning because of Fields, and more so, or most so, this last week.
I would
agree.
agree.
Like each game, Fields has contributed to the victory, but yeah, last game was his best performance yet.
A very different feel with him out there. It doesn't feel like, yo, stay afloat. It's like, nah, he's the guy that's driving the ship. Like, that's what we want. That's what, I mean, when you talk QB1, when you talk franchise caliber QBs, that's what you're looking for. And like you said, when has Fields not been in that role? I mean, since he's been in Chicago, he's always been viewed as QB1, franchise guy. You got to lead. Now, we know the results weren't always there, but what they were asking of him was a lot different than what we've been asking of him here. And I think that that's really refreshing for him, because it, I think, has taken a lot of that pressure off of him. And now we are seeing him play like at Ohio State. But if you think about it, right, not saying that the Steelers are Ohio State, but at Ohio State, think about from a collegiate standpoint, you're going to feel like you got great coaching. You're going to feel you have a ton of talent around you. And I just got to come out here and just play me. Just beat me. I don't have to go to Chicago where the coaching is questionable, the talent around you is questionable, and I got to go play hero ball. I think it's just a little bit more refreshing for him in this situation, because it's feel more like what he was doing at Ohio State, man. And we can still add to the talent. Now, granted, Coach T said he ain't trying to add no talent right now. He feel like he's solid at, you know. And shout out to Calvin Austin, man.
Yeah,
he looked good yesterday, man.
Scotty Miller and Calvin Austin played. Yeah, I mean, we're 3-0. Like,
yeah.
Part of you got to think, just maybe we just don't rock the boat right now. See what it continues to look like.
Yeah, as long as you're producing and you're getting the victories, it's like, man,
yeah, because Roman Wilson again didn't even play.
He was a healthy scratch,
see Cordell Patterson become involved in the offense, so maybe he carves out a little bit more of a niche as time goes on.
Shout out to him running that rock late in the game too, bro.